It's Mother's Day weekend. Welcome to Kingdom Speak, everyone. And we're going to get a little salty on this episode. Why not? So welcome in. It's going to be another great episode of Kingdom Speak with Pastor Daniel McKilla. How's everybody doing today? It's one of those Fridays where we're just stoked to be on the podcast. It's always been my dream to be here. Here we are. It's hard to believe it's real. And man, when I saw this comment on YouTube, I literally laughed out loud. Laughed out loud.
For real? You didn't just type it like lol?
There's so many people that lie. Lol?
Yeah.
And I did not.
Don't actually lol.
No, they lie lol. And this was just something else. Yeah. So it comes in written from a user PT7TD4QZ4T. I'm not even making this up. However, this is what the episode comment said on the birthday episode. I saw Brother Urshan at BAM conference in South Haven this weekend. I walked by him and said, "There's the host of my second favorite podcast." Oh,
man.
The burn. Say amen.
That's brazen,
So what,
man.
Did they type what he said in response?
No, that was it. He may be recovering right now in the hospital. But Jorge also.
The commenter or Brother Hershey?
The commenter. And we get a guy named Jorge who said, "What's crazy is that my birthday is on April 26th. So go figure. Happy birthday to you as well.
Is he 4?
Did he turn 4?
Probably more than 4. That was just so great. That was just something else. Then somebody else is obviously listening to some of our vintage episodes and commented on Stories from the Road by Marty Ballesteros.
Oh, wow.
And said, "This man preached such a huge message that I heard." And couldn't we all say that? I think every one of the messages I've heard him preach were huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, shout out.
Someone literally just put out a post, I don't know, historically holy on Instagram or something, talking about intercessory prayer.
Mm-hmm.
We've learned how to jump and dance and sing and shout, and we've learned how to do all this without you.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of Brother Ballesteros' statements.
So yeah, shout out to him. He's a faithful listener of the podcast, I'm sure. You know what's funny? If he does listen, he's going to chirp us now. But anyway.
Yes.
So yeah, it's Mother's Day weekend, guys.
It is.
Love you, Mom.
I do love my mother.
Yes, thank God for Mom.
Probably the most patient woman I know. It's my mom.
My mom turned 75 last week.
Mm-hmm.
75. We had a great...
Still going strong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did she cook her own birthday supper?
No. No, we had hot dogs and craft dinner.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Had her over.
It's beautiful. I'm sure she loved it.
Yes, absolutely.
Your mom would eat a hot dog with a fork and knife, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
She would be
And
sitting up.
a lace napkin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can see that.
Just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, she personified her picnic snacks are more formal than the majority of people's
Yeah.
supper routines. So
Proper lady.
oh yes.
Yeah. So happy birthday,
yes.
Mimi.
Shout out to my mom.
Yep. To all your
Yeah,
moms
to all
out
the
there.
moms out there. Happy
Yeah.
Mother's Day.
Yep.
And to all the guys that are faithful listeners, you're welcome.
Yes, this is your reminder.
We
It's
just
Friday.
saved your bacon.
Yes.
Go get the flowers.
Yes, you still have
Go
time.
get the chocolates.
Dinner reservations.
Yeah, do it up.
Do it all.
Do it up.
Do it all. All right.
And
so,
if you're planning on cooking for her, do a good job. Do not offer burnt sacrifices.
Yes, we don't.
More like sweet-smelling savors.
see if you have propane before Sunday for your barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The advice right now. Whew.
And that's for free.
Man,
We offered that completely
that
free.
is
People listen.
gold.
Yeah, they expect. There's a high watermark set here on this podcast, and we have to let them know these things.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Absolutely.
you want to get into some salt?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah. All right. What do you want to talk about? You want me to read? You want me to read?
Yeah.
Read.
Read. Man, my dad used to say, obviously this predates me, but there was Elder Shoe. They said that his wife used to read for him.
Mm-hmm.
And while he's preaching, he'd say, "Read, Sister Shoe. Read." All right, read, Sister.
Pastor Townley, he sent me one. It was so extravagant we couldn't put it on the show, but it was the same thing. It was some guy.
As if. So extravagant we couldn't put it on the show.
If he can't put it on the show, there's problems.
If he is saying,
I'm going to step out and say there's probably expletives in it or something. Like it has to be pretty extreme.
if Doric says it can't make the show, the threshold for what makes the show is pretty low with Doric. There's
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So 42 is where we're starting?
Judges 9 and 42.
And it came to pass on the morrow that the people went out into the field, and they took Abimelech, and he took the people and divided them into 3 companies, and laid wait in the field, and looked, and behold, the people were come forth out of the city. And he rose up against them and smote them, and Abimelech and the company that was with him rushed forward and stood in the entering of the gate of the city. And the 2 other companies ran upon all the people that were in the fields and slew them. And Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he took the city and slew the people that was therein, and beat down the city and sowed it with salt.
Sowed it with salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. The city that's in reference here is the city of Shechem, the men of Shechem.
Mm-hmm.
Abimelech is, as we will discuss in more detail, a son of Gideon.
Mm-hmm.
And so this comes to us from the book of Judges, which is a
Entertaining read.
It is. It is. I've just kind of finished marching through that on my personal Bible reading regimen. Lord have mercy. Everything you want to read is in that book.
Oh, yeah. Everything
It's
you don't
all
want to
there.
read, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it hurts.
Yeah. Especially if you've read it a few times, you know what's coming.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, no,
Yeah.
don't do that.
It's going to be that kind of morning, is it?
Yes. Don't do that.
Yes.
So there's an interesting dynamic, and although that's not the objective of today's assignment, I do think it's important that we highlight that these people are doing what we would deem, you can tell by our response, to be heinous acts, and they're doing them thinking that they are right, for every man did that which was right in his own eyes. We have no problem saying that it's completely ludicrous, it's heinous, it's abominable, but they did it. Somebody said, "Do you know what? Let's look at the landscape. I think this is the right thing to do." Okay, one of the ones that I have continued to. I mean, it's a staggering proposition, and that is the concubine that is abused all night by the men of the city, comes back to the dwelling, and her husband, if you will, comes out and says, "Get up, let's be going," and she's clearly deceased. Carries her home, cuts her up, just a minor detail, bone included.
Thank you for that detail.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you have a kid in the car, just turn the volume down for a minute.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
12 pieces, sends one to each of the tribes of Israel. Who thought that was the right thing to do? And then there's a war that ensues. You know, I've always been intrigued by the tipping points in war. There's a lot of speculation right now coming into major political shifts, elections in the U.S. We have an election, if not before. Thank God we have one in 2025 in Canada. And I was having a conversation with my brother-in-law and family last week about, what do you think happens if from our perspective the wrong people get back in again? Are we on the edge? And there's a lot of speculation about, are we on that tipping point of civil war, farther wide, spreading unrest? So even biblically, when you look at what were the triggers of war, and there was a pretty bloody aftermath to this egregious act of sending her segmented remains to different tribes. So Judges is full, man, of gory details. One of the things that is the chief identifiers of the book of Judges is that the people lived in cycles.
Yes, absolutely.
And it was, the writer of Judges goes to great length to tie that, the meta-narrative of Judges, if you will, is tied to the fact that whenever there is a lack of anointed leadership, there is a vacuum that is created, and people begin to devolve to doing base things.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
And thinking that they're right.
That's right.
Which speaks a lot to the condition of the human soul, right? I've heard elders say there's no such thing as holiness churches. There's no such a thing as evangelistic churches. There's no such a thing as revival churches. There's no such a thing as doctrinal churches. There's just holiness preachers, doctrinal preachers, revival preachers, evangelistic preachers. What they're saying is that a church organically does not have the ability, without the voice of leadership, to maintain that identifying element of being a holy congregation or a revivalist congregation, or it is only what is preached from the vantage point of anointed leadership into that congregation. Remove that element, and there is an immediate devolving that begins to happen to where, and we see this in Judges over a 400-year stretch of time.
Regime change, guy comes in, cleans house, everything is
Right.
fine, leaves,
Right.
everything goes downhill.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I still believe that cycles can be broken, and I believe that it is the will of God for the people of God to live above the cycles of negativity, the cycles where you do good for a while and then you stumble and you do evil for a while. So one key ingredient to that is consistency in anointed leadership. So you need to thank God for your pastor who gets up. Now listen, you don't compare him against the Friday night speaker at your favorite international conference. Okay? What is making your church the success that it is that he's there every service, plodding like an ox. What's he doing? He is leading you from the base commonality of fallen human reasoning, thinking what would be acceptable, and he's leading you higher, providing that avenue of redemptive lift through teaching, breaking the word of God down, and sowing into your life. So that is what was missing in the book of Judges.
That's right.
And we see Gideon as one of those men that God used in one of the lulls of the cycles that the people of Israel were in. And he had adopted the mindset, and this is what happens when you get in the belly of one of these cycles. They had been on a 7-year run of the Philistines coming in and basically exacerbating all of their investments, and they done it at the time of harvest every year.
Yeah.
Okay?
Let them take care of it.
So you do the work, you do the
That's right.
planting, you do the plowing, you do the weeding, you do all
right.
of the labor, and then when it comes time to harvest,
We're going to swoop in.
I'm going to swoop in and I'm going to take it from you. Okay? And ironically, I think that is how God gets our attention. Is one of the ways he can get our attention is that we cease being able to reap the benefits of our investment. The next step of that is that you fall into a survival mode, and that is where Gideon was. Gideon found himself just trying to eke out an existence. Let me save enough of my harvest that I can feed my family. And I think that is why he was threshing wheat in a wine press. It was a strategic move. Okay? He was trying to use a hockey term. Now, I know that some people don't know
We just lost the
the
majority
blessed
of our
game
audience.
of skating on ice and
The good old hockey game.
the good old hockey game. Okay? But to borrow a term from there, he was deking out the adversary. He was trying to divert.
Outmaneuver. Yeah.
Nobody will. Yeah, that's great. Outmaneuver. Nobody will come to a wine press looking for me to thresh out wheat.
That's it.
So maybe I can buy a little more time to just be able to get a little bit more wheat for my family to survive this. Gideon is visited by an angel. Okay, we're working our way to Abimelech. Gideon is visited by an angel who says, "You are a mighty man of valor."
That's right.
The man is fearfully hiding in this wine press, just trying to survive. Okay,
Yep.
thrive was not on his radar.
No, that's
survive, just survive. And so it's then that God, through his angel, speaks to Gideon, says, "You're a mighty man." He goes through the whole process of fleeces being wet, ground being dry, ground being wet, fleece being dry.
He said, "Gotta prove it to me, man."
Oh, yeah. Try it one more time.
Yeah, just to be sure.
Okay? But you got to understand the frame of mind that these people are in, right? If this is really God, I don't want to be stretching myself to only be savaged one more time by the Philistines. So it finally, when the angel touches the rock, phew, this is something that happens a few times in Judges too. Another fascinating, touches the rock, angel disappears, food goes up in smoke, and he just vanishes in the vapor.
Yeah.
And Gideon goes, "That must have been God."
You don't say. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And he worships God at that moment.
Yep.
He worships God. And so Gideon is then commissioned with going to the high places, tearing down the altars. He brings forth a victory over the Midianites that are the Midian is a host. God does it with only 300 men. It's one of the highlights of the positive elements in the book of Judges. Okay. He closes out his life, and guess what's happening? The decline is already starting to happen. He led them to the peak.
Yep.
He tears down the altars, the idols. He
Did it all. Yeah.
did it all. Got the victory over the
Undermanned.
Midianites.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And as he is wrapping up his life, here he has his sons are seeing it. His family's seeing it. An uptick once again in idolatry, an uptick in false worship. How disheartening would that be to see what your hand brought down once again coming back in? I mean, we're not talking another generation. He's still alive. It's another generation of leadership, but he's still alive to witness it. One of his sons, okay, is Abimelech. And I want you to go to the book of Judges, chapter number 9, and let's do verse 2. Judges chapter 9 and verse 2.
Speak, I pray you, in the ears of all the men of Shechem, whether is better for you, either that all the sons of Jerubbaal,
Okay, who?
Jerubbaal,
Jerubbaal.
which
So Jerubbaal is Gideon.
I knew that.
Now I don't know.
oh,
I don't know
go
why
away. Oh, man.
That's right. This is where I'm supposed to toss it to you.
Yes.
You got so eager,
Is-
you jumped in.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the producer
on.
bringing in the Bible knowledge of I don't know what.
Okay. So here is Abimelech. And this is a side of Gideon that we don't often talk about either. But Gideon clearly was involved in some nefarious sort of polygamy. Okay? And there's debate about how many sons that he had.
Okay.
Who qualified to be a son, who, here, the Amplified says that there was 70.
Wow,
Boy,
that's a lot.
that sounds
Seems
like-
like a lot.
That sounds like a very busy Mother's Day weekend.
Oh my God.
Like, whew,
There we go.
you think you got a lot of work to do this weekend.
Okay. Abimelech is one of many. Let's just say it that way. He's one of many.
It doesn't feel special.
No. No. So he feels the need to pull himself above
Yeah.
the fray
Separate myself a
of
bit here.
all of the other options. Okay. My dad is Gideon. Now they all have a host of different moms. Happy Mother's Day. But dad is Gideon. Gideon's name is renowned
Oh yeah.
in Israel. Okay. So who doesn't want the mantle of Gideon? Who doesn't want to claim the fame and the notoriety of Gideon? So Abimelech begins. Did you read verse 3?
I did not.
Because he's contrasting with them all of the sons of Gideon.
Yep. 3 score and
Jerubbaal.
10 reign over you, or that one reign over you.
Okay.
Remember also.
Which
that
do
I
you
remember-
want? Do
Yep.
you want one of us doing it, or do you want all of us doing it? Who wants the confusion? That's what he's doing. He's making a political move here.
Exactly.
He's
Yes.
positioning himself. He's pandering for supremacy.
That's right.
Pick me. Okay.
Yep.
And so he's selling this to the men of Shechem. Verse 3.
And his mother's brethren spake of him in the ears of all the men of Shechem, all these words, and their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech. For they said, he is our brother.
Okay. So he's gone to his mother's. I know we've already highlighted this, but he's not talking to his dad's family. He's talking to his mother's family.
That's key, yes.
Okay. And he's saying, Mom,
Mommy.
you sell the idea
Help me out. Yeah.
to the fam bam that I'm the guy
I'm all
that
that.
needs to be the replacement.
I'm all that. That's
Okay.
right.
You don't need all the other boys. There's a host of options out there, but I'm the guy. And so they said, do you know what? He is our brother. So let's do it. Verse 4.
And they gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Balberith, wherewith Abimelech hired vain and light persons, which followed him.
Hired vain
Man,
and light
that's where things go off the rails.
as it is. So he is using, number one, his familial ties to get a position
Yep.
that in short order is proved that he's way above the pay grade. Okay.
Exactly.
Then he is leveraging support with finances. And it sounds like we're talking about our political environment right now, right? He is, give me silver and I'll hire the men
That's right.
that will help me secure my position. And so he comes to the men of Shechem, his mother's family. They are men of idolatry. They are vain, useless men. They have no value. They're vile. In one sense of the word, sons of Belial. Okay?
Vain and light persons.
They had, listen, men who have nothing to lose have everything to gain.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Okay? And so these are the caliber of men who can be bought for silver, and their loyalty, now it's pretty shaky. I'm using that,
Yeah, that's
that
the
term
problem.
loyal at the farthest reaches of its applicability. Okay? But they all, yeah, man. And so he takes the silver and he buys them. Verse 5.
Verse 5 says, and he went unto his father's house.
So this is the first time we changed families.
Yep.
He took,
Now we're going to go to Dad's
he
place.
took the family of his mom,
Yep.
and now he went to his father's house.
At Oprah.
Yep.
Who knew? She's in the Bible. And slew his brethren, the sons of Jerubbaal, being 70 persons upon one stone.
Brother, that's a mess. You hear me?
Yeah.
I don't even know the process, why we didn't get all the details of what happened, but somewhere,
Something. Yeah, it's not cool.
somewhere, that is a gory, horrific slaughter of all of his family.
So he gets the endorsement and then goes to his dad's place and kills them all.
Yeah, and you know who does it? The vile, light, useless men who have nothing to lose and everything to gain. How many political movements are held up by vile and light men
That's right.
who go, hey, this might be my opportunity.
That's right.
I can bridge the distance from where I am to where I'm going by buying into this guy. So on one stone, he single-handedly kills every other brother. Here's a great rule of thumb, a biblical rule of thumb. If you have to slay a brother to secure a throne, it's probably not divinely ordained that you sit on that throne.
Wow.
Well,
Think about that.
that's good. That's really good.
If I have to kill a brother
Oh,
to
man.
get the position,
Wow.
then I'm probably not the guy for the position. And especially if I'm having to harness the loyalties of vile, vain, ambitious people to help me get there.
Yep.
Okay? One guy escaped.
One.
One guy, what was his name?
Jotham, the youngest son, was left, for he hid himself.
So one guy figured it out. You know, while all these other guys are dying, I'm going to hide.
Yeah.
A little bit of the spirit of his dad got on him, the wine, the threshing of wheat in a wine press, and he hid himself. Okay, and after the last one was the massacre was done, and the last one was killed, all of those vain, vile men of Shechem started proclaiming loudly, "Woo! This is the next leader. This is the man. Abimelech's the guy." And when it was told Jotham in verse 7, he went,
and stood in the top of the mount, Gerizim,
yes,
and lifted up his voice and cried and said unto them, Hearken unto me, ye men of Shechem, that God may hearken unto you. The trees went forth on a time to anoint a king over them.
okay, this is not an insignificant little story here. This is one of the few parables that are found in the Old Testament. Okay? You got to understand the family narrative that is going on here, where out of the potentially upwards to 70 some options, Abimelech is the one that maneuvered to be ruling over all of the others. Okay? And Jotham says, I want to talk to you men of Shechem. He's not addressing Abimelech.
Right.
At this point, he's talking to the
Right.
men of Shechem that have supported Abimelech's ambitious pursuit. Okay? And this is what they said. The trees,
Went forth on a time to anoint a king over them. They said unto the olive tree, Reign over us. And the olive tree said unto them, Should I leave my fatness, wherewith by me they honor God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? And the trees said to the fig tree,
okay, so the first option that they had, the trees said, we have to have somebody ruling over us. Every forest needs a king,
Yep.
right? We need a political umbrella over this forest, so the olive tree, we want it to be you. And he goes, not interested. Why should I leave my fatness that honors God and man just to be promoted
Right.
over the trees? So now it's the fig tree.
Option number 2. Trees said to the fig tree,
Yep.
Come thou and reign over us.
Yes.
But the fig tree said unto them, Should I forsake my sweetness and my good fruit and go to be promoted over the trees? So that's a no.
Yeah, that's another no. Yep.
Then said the trees unto the vine.
Listen, let me just make a general statement here, and this could get us in some interesting
I already know what you're
waters.
going to say.
Get us in the
I already
weeds.
know what you're going to say.
But listen,
What's he going to say?
there are times, what
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Are you going to say if you're not the first option?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
or the second option?
how many times are political movements, and I don't care if this is religious or otherwise, ruled by second, third, and fourth options?
Absolutely.
Which means the optimum leader is not the guy leading.
I heard a guy say once that the best people either say yes first or they say no first. Always.
Wow. So that's a fair point. I mean,
It's in a book
just
I read
because
once.
you're in a position over a political movement doesn't necessarily mean you're
doesn't mean
the
anything.
worst pick.
That's right.
Okay, so I do want that to be out there.
Correct.
But,
Correct.
But just because you're in that position doesn't mean you're the number one pick.
Well, no. It's like, hey, I would like to offer you this. I've asked 2 other people already, and they've turned me down. So right away, you know you're not the ideal pick.
Right. Right. And then at that moment, that entire political regime is being led by less than ideal.
Not the ideal person.
It's not the guy's fault.
No.
It's not the fig tree's
It is
fault.
what it is.
But clearly amongst the network of trees, the olive tree was the first pick.
That's right. So now the trees are trying to be led by not the best leader,
Right.
objectively.
Right. So that's an uphill climb for the fig tree, and he goes, nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
I appreciate the offer.
I do. I do. But why should I forsake my sweetness
yeah, that's
and my
right.
good fruit?
Yeah, you guys are really gracious, but you know what? I just think I'll stay where I'm at.
Just to be promoted
Yeah.
over the trees?
Right.
Okay.
Then the tree said unto the vine,
We got to have an option here.
Come thou and reign over us. And the vine said unto them, Should I leave my wine, which cheereth God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees?
Here's the deal. The olive tree has a purpose, and the purpose of the olive tree is fatness, giving honor to God and man. The fig tree has a purpose. It was created for a purpose. It's for sweetness, for good fruit.
We had an episode about a fig tree, did we not?
Yep, we
Yeah,
did.
I just think throw that in there.
The vine had a purpose. Should I leave my wine that cheereth both God and man? Okay. So here's the deal. If the request, AKA opportunity, if it's a promotion that requires you to leave and abandon your purpose, you better turn it down.
Exactly.
You notice the clear note that is repeatedly highlighted here. I have to leave
Yeah.
producing fatness
What I am,
to
yes.
be promoted over the trees. Any promotion that requires you to leave your purpose is one that needs to be turned down.
Bam.
Needs
That's
to be
really
turned
good.
down.
That's really good.
I don't care how big of an opportunity it appears
Didn't
to be.
somebody say, talking about this, I've recalled this in my lifetime at one point, that even the hierarchy of the trees as it goes, like we're going down and down and down. We're down to a bramble now.
Well, that's the next one. Exactly.
right?
And there is a chance that you will find someone that won't turn it down.
Man, you keep asking.
But do you want to be led by that guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the olive tree has said no. The fig tree has said no. The vine has said no.
So the bramble said unto the trees, If in truth ye anoint me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow, and if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon.
Wow. How about that for a first staff meeting?
Yeah, is that the leader? Is that the guy?
Right. You notice the bramble didn't have to leave anything.
Exactly.
He had nothing to lose.
He had nothing to lose. He didn't leave producing fatness. He didn't leave producing good, sweet fruit. He didn't leave producing wine and joy. And the bramble had nothing to leave. So he had everything to gain by the promotion. And he said, just go ahead, guys. And if you don't like it, let the fire consume you. Bless God.
And that's when they knew they made the wrong choice.
Okay?
Yeah. Wow.
So
Fascinating.
then is when he applies it to Abimelech. Okay? Understand that this is not just a random application of this little parable that came to Jotham. No, Jotham risks his future by stepping out on this high point. You notice the parallels there with his dad? Going to the high places, tearing down the altars. Gideon had that. Jotham had that virtue within him, and he's stepping out on a high place. He's putting his own life at risk, just like his daddy did. And he's addressing the fact that Abimelech is a bramble. That's what he is.
So, side note here, so there were obviously three other, if we apply the parable literally to the story, there were obviously three brothers that would have been more qualified.
Good point. I wonder if Jotham was one of them.
Yeah. It's just interesting, isn't it?
I could get into it, but we won't have time.
Well, I was looking at you.
Yeah, we don't have time.
We're trying to open it up for you.
Yeah, no, we're moving right along.
We really got to get to the salt, so we'll just move on.
We haven't even got to the salt
I'd
yet.
really like to hear your perspective on that. Maybe next episode.
Okay. All right. Tune in next episode.
Listen, we can do this.
Or we could just stretch this out if you want to go into like a deep dive for an hour or two.
You don't want me to do that.
Oh, I do though.
No.
So he says, if you think you've done the right thing, he goes on 17,
and that you have
18.
made Abimelech king.
Right. If you've picked,
Yeah.
you think the bramble's it,
Yeah. And have done unto him according to the deserving of his hands. For my father fought for you and adventured his life far. That's absolutely the truth.
Yes.
And delivered you out of the hand of Midian. And you're risen up against my father's house this day and have slain his sons, 70 upon one stone. Have made Abimelech the son king because he is your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've dealt truly and sincerely with Jerubbaal and with his house this day, then rejoice ye in Abimelech.
Yeah, man, you made the right choice. Like, go ahead, man.
Oh, yeah.
I've just told you this parable, but if you think you've got the right choice, go for it. Verse 20.
If not,
But if not,
let fire come out from Abimelech and devour them.
there it is. That's where he lets you know what he thinks Abimelech is.
Yeah.
The parable that he just gave is the bramble said, let fire come out and consume. And Abimelech is now tied to being the bramble. Okay? And it will devour the men of Shechem and the house of Milo.
Yep.
What's your dog's name?
Milo.
Oh.
1 L, not 2.
1 L, not 2. Okay.
And devour Abimelech.
That was close. Okay. And it will also devour the bramble.
Exactly.
The fire is going to come out and consume them, but it's also going to devour Abimelech. Okay.
And he dropped the mic and ran.
And he ran. Like this is the official
Not
out the
taking
back
any
door.
questions.
I got my driver waiting in the car.
I'm gone.
And I am out of here.
Yep.
Okay. 3-ish years pass. And Abimelech has enjoyed the propping of vain, vile men of Shechem. He's had no competitors. Jotham's left him alone. All the other brothers are dead. He's living the dream until the loyalty of the men of Shechem begins to shake. And so they begin to plot how to separate themselves from the leadership of the bramble, if you will. So we want to overthrow this man that we propped up. So this is a classic case at this moment for Abimelech. This is a classic case of he begins developing a hatred for the very men that helped him ascend.
Of course. That's right. Because now they're not giving him what he wants.
Right.
That's right.
And the hatred he had for them surpassed the love that he had for them when they were helping him in the beginning.
Yep.
Is that not how it ends up?
Of course. Of course.
And so the bramble nature within him was consume him.
Boom. Yeah. Lash out.
Let the fire. Okay? And so this brings us, and I know we've been a few minutes getting here, but this brings us to the military showdown between Abimelech and the men of Shechem in the city, where he splits his men into 3 camps. Where do you think he gets that idea? His dad.
Exactly.
This is a Gideon move. Okay? You notice how he can't escape from his upbringing, yet he's still trying to forge his own. So in a moment of crisis, he's going to do the things that his dad did that he thinks got the victory.
Yeah.
But the victory didn't just come because his dad had split his group into three. The victory came because his dad was submitted to God and was ordained to be and anointed to be that leader. Okay? So he waits for the people of the city to come out into the field, and he starts the attack. They spring up. Boom. They go into the city. They fight all day. They raze the city. They burn it. There's the fire. Then, just as a little footnote, it says, and he sowed it with salt. With salt. Now, the idea of salt is, first of all, it's the only place for me to know that says it clearly like this in Scripture, that it was used in a military-style conquest, okay, where salt was used as a weapon, if you will. And there's a reason for that, because salt has, I'm going to read one source here, that it was an ancient custom. Sowing a particular place in salt was an ancient custom signifying perpetual desolation. Abimelech wanted the desolation of Shechem to be a memorial of his achievements against his enemies. A lot of salt would make a place barren. A lot. A lot. Hadrian sowed Jerusalem with salt. In AD 1162, the city of Milan, you guys are going on your Italy journey here shortly.
We'll let you know how it looks when we're there.
Yeah. But it was sown with salt in 1162. A custom in France was to sow the property of a man who had been declared a traitor to the king, sow his property with salt.
Wow.
Okay?
Pretty crazy.
Why? Because it took it from just being a momentary flogging that after he healed up, he could get back to, okay? You can rebuild a city that's been burnt. You can reconstruct the walls of a city that's been razed. But if a city's been sown with salt, it is a perpetual, you cannot grow anything because it deems the soil that it has been sown into as barren.
Changes the identity of the soil.
So this will let you know how much Abimelech was motivated to make sure that the men of Shechem never rebounded from his victorious assault against them. Okay? There is so much to talk about with salt in Scripture, but I just want to go through and really pull one particular aspect out of this where we're talking about leadership. Okay? Salt, by reason of its natural properties, is a preservative. So you can sow something with salt in food, in the food industry, etc., that will preserve it, keeps it from decaying. And so that is why I believe you read about a covenant of salt. A covenant of salt. Now, go, if you would, to 2 Chronicles chapter 13 and verse number 4, and we read about Abijah on the Mount Zemarium.
Yep. And he said, "Hear me, thou Jeroboam, and all Israel. Ought ye not to know that the Lord God of Israel gave the kingdom of Israel over to David forever, even to him and his sons by a covenant of salt?"
Okay, he gave it over to them forever. That has a tone of eternality. It takes a preservative to keep that word. I'm going to do this, and it's yours forever. So how did God communicate that to David? Oh, through a covenant of salt. This is our arrangement, and we're going to pour salt on it to make sure we don't lose the terms of the covenant. What are the terms of the covenant? It is, if you do this, I will do this. If you serve me, if you love me. We don't have time to get into all this, but you've read that before.
Yep.
Then I will do this. But the moment you backslide, then I will do this. They took this term, the terms of this covenant, and they sowed it with salt. Not to destroy it, but to preserve it. It's something that has to last from generation to generation. So in order to get a covenant from one generation to another generation, you needed salt. It preserves the terms of that relationship. Ironically, this is in a season of Israel's history where Jeroboam and Rehoboam, the two sons of Solomon, are in a tangle, kind of like Gideon's sons were. Rehoboam is someone that has Jerusalem. Jeroboam is slipping into idolatry. So what does Jeroboam do in verse 7?
And there gathered unto him vain men.
Well, isn't that something? Light men,
The children
vile
of Belial.
men, vain men.
Yeah, there they are again.
There they are again, propping up Jeroboam's ambitious pursuits of trying to set up a competitive kingdom to the one that Rehoboam was leading. Okay? And so Abijah is reminding them, hey guys, don't you forget that God made a covenant with Rehoboam and that kingdom, and that covenant was a covenant of salt. Here's a contrast, and we're going to talk about it for just a few more moments. You will either covenant with salt or be sown with salt.
Wow. Yes.
Righteous men make a covenant with salt. Vain, vile men are sown with salt.
Yeah.
Sown with salt. Okay? Let's look at another example. Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse number 23.
And that the whole land thereof is brimstone and salt and burning, that is not sown, nor beareth, nor any grass groweth there, like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Like. It's kind of like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, when we're talking of Sodom and Gomorrah, we often talk of brimstone and fire, but here in Deuteronomy, he adds
Salt.
salt. Salt. He likens this moment to what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah, which was not just fire and brimstone, but a sowing of salt, so to speak. It doesn't say exactly sown with salt, but the whole land was affected by the brimstone, the salt, and the burning. Okay? Verse 24, why did the Lord do this to the land? What is the heat of his anger?
Yeah.
Okay?
That men shall say, because they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord God
Okay,
of their
so did you get
fathers.
it? You're either having a covenant of salt or you're sown with salt. An abandonment of salty covenants results in salty overthrows.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's right.
So it intrigues me that there is, this is outside, so this is opinion right here. This is not a doctrinal stance, but when you read about the regions of the Dead Sea, there is a strong opinion that region is where Sodom and Gomorrah was.
Interesting. Where all the salt is.
Where all the salt is.
That's
Okay.
crazy.
And we can't take the time to unpack all of this, but if it's not rooted in the fact that Sodom and Gomorrah, I mean, there's some that posit it's literally under the Dead Sea, like the remains of that region of the city are in that region, right where the Dead Sea is. We also know this to be a fact that there's no outflow from the Dead Sea. So the moment that you stop investing in other people is when you become too salty. There's something about flow that reduces the dangerous levels of salt in your life that that challenge life, prosperity, growth, reproduction, etc. Okay, so let's just move on from that. And I think it's also worthy to note that Lot's wife
Yes, that's the one piece of salt that we talk about.
is turned to a pillar of salt. Okay, so when it comes to leadership, what you see here is that a little bit of salt is good, but too much is catastrophic. Enough salt that you don't abandon your covenant, but not so much that the land becomes barren. Okay?
Yep.
2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 19 takes it to another level.
And the men of the city said unto Elisha, Behold, I pray thee, the situation of the city is pleasant,
So the city's okay.
as my Lord seeth, but the water is not, and the ground barren. And he said, Bring me a new cruse, and put salt therein.
Yes.
And they brought
Bring me a cruse and put salt therein. These are important. These are important details. This lets you know that he's not bringing salt in by the truckload.
Correct.
Okay, we could debate all day long how big the cruise is, but nobody says it's a cruise ship full of salt.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he put salt in a cruise, and then
He went forth unto the spring of the waters, and cast the salt in there, and said,
Yes.
Thus saith the Lord, I have
Yes.
healed these waters.
yes,
Therefore shall not be from thence any more death or barren land. So the waters were healed unto this day.
the salt in proper amounts, salt has a healing quality to it. You don't need a valley of salt to be healed. You don't need a pillar of salt to be healed. You don't need a sea of salt to be healed. Just a little cruise of salt can do the healing. Okay? Then when we look at Ezekiel chapter 47,
Ezekiel 47. Where are we going?
verse number 10.
And it shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from En-gedi even unto Anglium. They shall be a place to spread forth nests. Their fish shall be according to their kinds, as the fish of the great sea, exceeding many. But the miry places thereof and the marishes shall not be healed. They shall be given to salt. And by the river upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. It shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters they issued out of the sanctuary, and the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine.
Okay. Notice the contrast here. This is jumping into the middle of Ezekiel saying, I saw a man with a measuring line in his hand. There was water flowing from the tabernacle. He measured 1,000 cubits. It was ankle deep, another 1,000 cubits. It was knee deep, another 1,000 cubits, until it was waters to swim in. And wherever the waters went, it healed them. The waters are issuing out of the sanctuary. There is a redemptive healing component to these waters. But they find their limit, not with arid, dry places, not with desert places, streams in the desert, not a problem. Not a problem. Where they find their limit is the miry places that are given to salt. They are holden by salt. They won't let it go.
Right.
This is not a reflection on the lack of the healing qualities of the water from the sanctuary. This is an expression of how threatening the pursuit and the hold of salt can have in the marshy, miry places of your life. So a little salt can heal waters, Elisha said.
Yep.
But given to salt, the water won't be healed.
Destructive, yes.
So a little bit heals, but too much doesn't. Okay? So when we are leading and when we are living our life, this is so massive. And we've spent this whole episode to get here to really where the application lies. Okay? Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt.
Yeah.
Seasoned with salt.
Just a pinch.
Just a little, just enough to heal. Not enough to make barren.
Yeah.
So when you come in to an apostolic church and you sit down and you need healing, I don't want to be the preacher that just backs up with a dump truck load of salt and says, bless God. I tell you what. Okay? Well, I told them the truth. I want to run them reprobates out of this church. Bless God. Easy on the salt.
Yeah.
Easy on the salt. Too much salt makes people's blood pressure go up. Okay? Do not confuse speech seasoned with salt with being salty speech.
Exactly.
It's not the same.
No.
You cannot be given to salt. You must be seasoned with
That's very
salt.
good. Very good.
There is no way that I can allow as a pastor my preaching to be so salty that it no longer heals.
That's it.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Well, you'll just kill stuff.
You will.
You just kill stuff.
It will destroy stuff. It will. Too much salt just makes the relationship barren, makes the saint barren, for sure makes the ministry barren. Okay? Speech seasoned with salt makes it grow, makes it thrive, makes it come to life. You don't, here's a revelation for somebody. You don't have to be ugly to preach the truth or to even communicate the truth.
Amen.
Just season it enough with salt to get the job done. Enough salt to heal the water, but not so much that you make it miry and marshy so that there's no clear, the fish aren't going to go down in there. You're not going to catch no fish down in the Dead Sea. It's called the Dead Sea for a reason.
Boy, he's letting him have it, isn't he?
Is it too salty?
No, it's not. I don't think so. It's good.
2 Samuel chapter 8 says that David in verse 13 came back from smiting the Syrians. He got him a name when he returned. When he returned.
Smiting the Syrians.
Go ahead.
In the Valley of Salt.
In the what?
The Valley of Salt. Being 18,000 men.
Yes.
And he put garrisons throughout all Edom, put he garrisons, and all they of Edom became David's servants.
Okay, hold right here. Let me say this first. So the first thing is that there are times we have to go to battle in salty situations. The Valley of Salt. But that's no place to live. It's a good place to return from. David went down to the Valley of Salt, and he had to confront some things. He had to conquer some things. He had to get the victory over some things, over some adversaries. And he didn't do it by just seasoning it with salt. It was a salty fight. Okay?
Yep.
It was a Valley of Salt.
Yep.
It was a confrontation. But salt, the Valley of Salt is not where you want to live. The Valley of Salt is a deadly place.
Yeah,
So
you
it is a
can't live
place
there.
to return from.
Can't live there.
You don't get a name by staying there. Well, you might get a name by staying there. But David got a name by coming back from there.
Yeah.
All right? And so he smote the Syrians in the Valley of Salt, and he came back and he got himself a name. Now, what does it say after he came back and put garrisons in Edom?
It says that the Lord preserved David
Oh.
whithersoever he went.
He done what?
He preserved David.
He preserved David. I thought salt was a preservative.
Oh, well, it actually is.
Don't you ever fall prey for the idea and adopt the ideology that you have to stay in the valley of salt to be preserved. You may have to go fight battles there to get the victory, but get back out of there. Don't let that be what, well, my God, I just had to take care of business today. Oh, good for you. Get back out of there. Let the Lord be the preservative, not the salt. And the Lord preserved David.
Yeah, let him run the salt shaker.
Yeah, you just be seasoned with salt and let God do the preserving. What would happen if we went into old battlefields and we just sowed them with enough salt that we killed the bitterness and we killed the envy and we killed the jealousy and we killed the hate and we killed the insecurity and we killed the competitiveness and we killed all of the indifference and we killed it all, but we didn't sow it with so much salt that we couldn't reap revival and brotherhood and unity and evangelism and holiness and happiness. How about a good dose of just happy? Just enough salt to turn a battlefield into a fruitful field. Oh, wouldn't that be something?
What an idea.
Wouldn't that be something? Not so much salt that we turn a battlefield into a barren field. Wouldn't it be something that we could just use enough salt to turn a battlefield into a fruitful field? Don't put so much salt on that battlefield that you make a memorial out of it, like Lot's wife.
Well, there. Exactly. Exactly right.
Can never go back.
Never go back. Put just enough salt on that valley and that battlefield that once again it can have a harvest. Enough salt to heal the water, not enough salt to murk and mire the water. Enough salt to destroy the undesirable crops, but not so much that you make a memorial out of your bitterness, anger, and your old battles. How about we just go a little easy on the salt? Back off the salt.